John Spartan 442, if you could durability test any vehicle, Whistlin Diesel-style, what would you choose and how would you test? Considering a 981 or 982 Cayman as a weekend car, what are the main differences in driving experiences between these cars? Have you in someone's car that wasn't yours?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty gross.
Is that disgusting?
I think boning in someone else's car is kind of gross.
Oh, okay.
Kind of.
What about just outside their Focus RS?
Really? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is, as always, brought to you by Off the Record. We love Off the Record. I hope I don't need Off the Record. While you're hearing this show, I'm off on a road and track event in a 740 horsepower Bentley. And my friend just asked me today, how do you drive this car without going to jail? I said, it's a two-tiered strategy. One, I have my Valentine 1 going, I have Waze going, and then if that technology collaboration fails me, I have Off the Record. I've got the app on my phone. You get the app on your phone. Download it. Use code TSTPOD when you set up an account, or go to offtherecord.com/TST, and they will set you up. If you get a ticket, all you got to do is snap a photo of that ticket, snap a scan of that ticket, send it to Off the Record. They will connect you with a qualified attorney that will fight that ticket in the jurisdiction where you got pulled over. They are lifesavers, folks. When you're on the side of the road and the cop is writing that ticket, normally you're mad stressed. Off the Record keeps you calm because you know you've got someone in your corner. It's like, don't even worry about it. They're going to handle it. Download the app. Use code TSTPOD, TSTPOD, 10% off all legal services booked through Off the Record. Same if you use that link, offtherecord.com/TST. We love them. Get it in your phone so you have it. If you get sniped on the side of the road, Off the Record will go to work for you. All right, on this episode of the podcast, we tried to drive the $300,000 Revology Mustang up the mountain. It didn't go so well, but we tell you about the car anyway. Plus, we drove the new GR Corolla with the automatic 8-speed transmission. I have an update on what went wrong with my Bentley Turbo R. We had to ship many Lamborghini parts to Italy for my engine and a whole lot more. It's the Smoking Tire Podcast with me and Zach. Let's go. And if you love the show, please give us a rating or a review. It helps us grow. Had a nice session with my therapist this morning, as one does. And need to not see certain aspects of life as successes and failures, and see them like I think smoking indica weed has improved my anxiety, actually. But I still see it as a moral failure for some reason. Not because of how society thinks, but just because of how people were all good for you when you say you stop doing it, you know?
Yeah, but I think they're supportive of you making changes you want to make. And
sure,
so if you make a conscious choice to change, actually I like indica because it does this and this and this, and I'm not slipping into the old habit, people go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know?
That's pretty much where it stops, yeah.
That'll be $500.
I'll tell you what, if you go to Snoop Dogg's weed store and you're like, I'd like some low-strength indica, they look at you like you are an alien.
Yeah, they're like, do you know who we are? Do you know who we represent?
This is Snoop Dogg's store, sir.
Yeah.
We only sell weed that is half a point beneath meth or oxy.
I mean, they managed to squeeze 150% of THC into something. They have scientists working on this.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Wednesday I smoked all the weed. I smoked 8 mini joints on Wednesday.
I haven't slept very well, but tomorrow I have a marijuana plan for my evening. I'm very excited about it.
You have a plan?
Yeah.
What kind of plan?
I'm going to eat edibles and go bouldering.
That sounds dangerous. Is it?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Real bouldering or indoor bouldering?
No, indoor, where they have mattresses.
Oh, all right. Okay, cool. Yeah,
Outdoor bouldering scares me. I know a lot of people do it, but
you could die.
How many mattresses, there's pads, but you can only carry so many.
Yeah.
And that's not enough. whatever you carry is not enough. I've watched videos of people trying to land and catch their friends and stuff, and I'm going to say it. I'm too old for that particular risk.
Well, a couple weeks ago, I was talking about riding dirt bikes or going to do it. And I had a few people email me like, dude, you should do it. It'd be great. And I had one person that was like, I tried that when I was 45 and I broke my spine. I was like, yep, that's the bit of info I need to not do that.
I told Sarah about that school and she's like, I would do that. I went, really?
Yeah.
But I have the same fear as you. I go, but what if you fall?
But like walking is so nice. I really want to be able to keep doing that.
Yeah. But I like the activities I can do now.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Wednesday, long day, the world wasn't looking our way on Wednesday. And on top of everything else, we went to go film the Revology 1968 Mustang resto mod and the GR Corolla with the automatic. And we got to the hill. I thought it was 50-mile-an-hour winds. As it turns out, the winds were more like 70 or 80 miles an hour.
There were gusts. Weather Service measured gusts in some valleys 70 to 80 miles per hour.
Which I think I felt a couple of times.
I don't know how to measure. I just know that it was aggressive. Big rocks, big pebbles were getting flung around, and you were rightly concerned.
It was an enormous risk to the car.
Yeah,
it was a huge risk to the car. And if it was, if it was like a production car, like if it was just the Corolla we were filming, like I still wouldn't have probably stayed up there. But this is a $300,000 car made by a very small company. Mm-hmm. They don't have a whole lot of cars. So unfortunately that meant like I left my house at like 6 a.m., 6:15 a.m., drove all the way up there, and then we didn't get to film and just turned around and drove home. It was so I was in the car for like 4.5 hours for almost nothing.
We did a lot of work to get no work done.
We did. No money made, no work done.
Yeah.
Possibly, it didn't, but possibly this very expensive car could get fucked.
Yeah. It looked okay when I looked at it.
It's fine, but if we stayed up there for fucking 2 minutes longer.
Well, and the other risk, when I went exploring the rest of the road in the GR to see if there was like a quieter, less windy area, the debris on the road,
yeah.
Do you remember we were sitting in traffic coming down because there was so much traffic, and I looked to my left and a tumbleweed was rolling faster than we were.
Yeah.
And it was the size of a full bunch of bananas.
Yeah.
Like a 3-foot-long conical-shaped tumbleweed.
There were mad
plants were
tumbleweeds.
getting ripped out of the ground. There were big rocks all over. It was just risky.
When the wind comes across those dirt turnouts that we use to make U-turn stuff, it was strong enough that it was gravel cannoning, cars.
Yeah.
And it was fucking dangerous, honestly.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily dangerous to be a human up there, but like your car is not coming out of that if you stick around.
Yeah.
That happened with the NSX, remember, last year?
Did you have to do paint correction afterwards?
No, because it was the first drive after I had the paint protection film put on.
Oh, it was protected.
The PPF did its job, and I got a couple nicks in the PPF, and a couple of nicks in my driver's side wheels, and a couple little nicks on the windshield. But the PPF probably saved me $50,000. I would have had to repaint the whole car.
If it was chipping wheels, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's fast.
Yeah, it was fucked up. Yeah, it was really bad. But we both got some seat time in this car.
Well, dude, I had a great time in this car. Because yesterday was the anniversary of when I proposed to Sarah, and her favorite car in the world are fastback Mustangs. So I went home and I just said, come outside. And she's like, what's going on? I was like, I'm going to take you for a ride in a car. And I could tell she didn't really care.
Yeah.
And she told me later, she's like, if you had said it was any other brand, I would have been like, what? Like, she likes cars, but she's not going to like interrupt her day. But she walked outside and was like, she was fucking stoked.
Oh, that's cool.
So we drove to Manhattan Beach, had lunch.
Nice.
Drove around, hit the big tunnel on the 105.
Uh-huh.
And really
the 105 to the 405
the ramp,
north?
That's
good
like
tunnel.
The longest tunnel around us.
It is a good tunnel.
And it was great, man.
Yeah.
It's great.
The car, see, what I like about this car is that it doesn't feel too new.
Right.
Like
it does a great job at being
muscle car
new-ish,
theater,
but feeling like old muscle car. It's missing some small elements, But man, it's 85, 90% of the way there. And it's much quieter inside on the highway than I was expecting. I mean, it's
fine.
Really not. Wind noise isn't a big deal. Road noise isn't a big deal. The stuff all works. The Apple CarPlay wireless works really well.
Yeah.
Stereo's good. Like you could drive this across.
I don't love the
states,
integration of that stereo. It's just it's an aftermarket screen.
It doesn't look great.
Yeah. Like I don't necessarily have the answer for what to do about that. You can't. I mean, maybe they could hide it behind the wood paneling a little better, just to make it just be a screen. But that's that and those two window switches are the only hint of like any kind of cheapness, and it's a pretty small complaint.
It is, and you were totally right. I had to roll down both windows, and that's what those switches are for. Because for people who don't know, like the regular window cranks are electric switches, which is great. You just push them down. The window goes down really fast, but like you said, if you want to roll down your passenger window, but I would hide those switches in the center console or something for that small use case.
Yeah, I would too.
And I think, Bentley has really won the center cluster game with that rotating tri-screen system. Something like that where you can just have like aux gauges and then flip around and have a double DIN pop out. Like, because I agree with you, having that big square in the center is really the only thing.
It takes you out of the moment.
It takes you out of the age, I think. Because otherwise, the HVAC controls on the left side work so good. Yeah. They're digital.
They're the old controls, but they work.
Well, they're digital now.
Yeah,
so they move. The old controls would move like a rod and a cable and move a vent. And these are digital, so they slide really nice. I was like, if this was in a Rolls Royce, I would be like, this is the right action.
Yeah, actually it would, And the door slam is so tight on it.
It really is.
The panel fitment is so good, and it's other than the clutch, which is both heavy and has this very high catch point, which is weird,
really weird.
Other than that, the brakes feel great, lots of confidence. Steering's pretty good. Feels a little old school. It doesn't feel like a modern unit, but I trust it.
Yeah, that's the hard thing. That steering, in terms of difficulty and ratio, feels period correct for an old car.
Right.
And I was torn when we were going down the canyon. I was leading you. I was like, ooh, would I want a quicker rack that would be better for this activity? But then once I get on the highway, this feels more period correct. So that's a hard thing. Yeah. Maybe you can order one or the other. I'm not sure.
But the HVAC worked really good. The seats are much better than the stock seats. And the ergonomics aren't bad. I actually think I'd find the ergonomics better if I had an automatic. Like, it was really the ergonomics of the clutch pedal that I didn't like.
It sat close. Further back. It was the furthest back. So the pedals were like stairs.
Yeah.
It was like close, medium, far.
Yeah.
And then there's no dead pedal.
Yeah.
So you can put your foot behind the clutch, as you tend to do, stretch your leg out.
Yeah.
But you got to make sure that you don't need it for a while.
Right. Yeah. And so, But all of those things, it's sort of like if it was too comfortable, like most people who look at it don't see a resto mod. Right. They see a very clean, period built car. They're not, and I think that's the vibe that you're going for. And I think if you wanted a pro touring car, there's people who are better off just buying a brand new Mustang, and this is a lot more complete than you would probably get by buying a regular 68 Mustang and piecemealing it yourself.
Yeah, so people will ask, like, why is this so expensive? I think if you bought a regular fastback Mustang right now used, it's going to be $60 to $100,000 just because people love them. And then if you want to do a full restoration, because this thing, they make their own body panels, they weld them together, like they make a unibody. To do that level of work is going to cost a fuck ton of money. Yeah. The man hours involved in this are a lot. The man hours is a lot. And I think what's good about this, and part of what you're paying for, is that this is the only thing they do. So it's all going to be done consistently, let's call it correct. And like there's some shops that can do anything to any car. But if it's a specialty shop that does 33 Fords and Camaros and other things, like they will have to fabricate more parts originally. They're going to have to figure more things out for this platform. And that can increase your cost or reduce your quality. Yeah. So there's like a a bit of, I guess, safety that comes with getting something that's brand new like this. But of course, you are paying for it. It's a lot.
Yeah, this is $300,000.
Yeah,
It's very expensive, but it's I put it in the same. And maybe it's not quite as obsessively built as an Icon, but it's about as close as I've seen. If they got rid of those window switches and they better integrated the stereo, I would say that they'd have gotten as close as I've seen to Icon.
Yeah, I agree.
But it would cost you. Let's say you bought that '68 Mustang fastback and then began to do a rebuild, a resto mod. If you planned for it to be $120,000, by the time you were done, I could almost guarantee you it's $180,000. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to cost 50% more than you thought it would. It's going to take 50 to 100% longer than you thought it would. And your total systems integration will not be as good as you hoped it would be.
Yeah.
Even in a best case. So, like, I've told this, I told to Tom Segura, I told to a bunch of people, you just bite the bullet with a Bronco. Just bite the bullet and get a fucking Icon. Because by the time you have a whatever shop do this, you're going to be so close as makes no difference to the price of the Icon. It won't be as good of a product, and you won't have the brand behind it if you sell it.
Right.
You go to resale an Icon, it's an Icon.
Very true.
You go to resale a fucking whatever Bronco, it's half.
Right, Jim and Dave's is a hot rod shop, and there are shops that can do amazing work. Like, that's why the Riddler Award exists.
Yeah,
there are companies that have risen to that prominence. But like you said, it's just the whole world basically knows about Icon now.
Yeah,
and so it just makes it simpler if you're going to spend that kind of money.
So with this, I mean, what I like about what Revology does is they have basically the same treatment that they can apply to any Mustang body style from the 1960s under license from Ford.
Yeah.
Folks, we got to take one quick break from the action for Delete Me. I signed up for Delete Me. They hooked it up. I signed up. I put in all my information. It took me about 15 minutes to probably put in all my information on Delete Me. And man, when I tell you what they found, Delete Me is a money thing to have, particularly right now. We're so online. We're buying stuff online. Our address, our phone number, our credit card information, our birthdays. We need all this stuff to bring the convenience of online shopping and online services into our homes. But you can also be the product, right? These data brokers are buying your personal data and then selling it to other people. And then you end up with robocalls, spam, phishing, even identity theft. It's a big problem, but now you can protect that privacy with Delete Me. I signed up for Delete Me, and it took a few days, actually. I knew it wasn't going to be like a right away thing, but a few days later, they sent me an email and it said, okay, I logged in, and they found like 1,000 instances of my name, address, phone number. I mean, for the good news, it was actually mostly old addresses and old phone numbers that I don't use anymore, but it was still out there, and they got it taken out of those data broker websites. It was like very, very easy, totally straightforward. I told them what to look for on the internet, and they found it, and then they regularly update me with more stuff they find. It's an ongoing solution. And so we've got a discount code for you. Go to joindeleteme.com/tire. Use promo code TIRE for 20% off. That's joindeleteme.com/tire. Use promo code TIRE, 20% off. Get your data off the internet with Delete Me. It is a great thing. Help keep you private and sane. And now back to the show.
Yeah.
So you could do 65 coupe, 65 convertible, Shelby GT350, Shelby GT500. You could do a Bullet thing. You could do a GT500 KR convertible, and you can do manual. You can do automatic, which is a 10-speed, Mustang automatic. You can do a variety of different interior materials and wheel options and whatever. And it ranges, I think the cheapest, if you go to the very, very top of the page, the cheapest, that blue 66 convertible, I think is $285,000.
To start?
Yeah. Okay. Which comes with almost everything you'd want. There's not a ton of options other than special colors and special interior materials.
Oh, there you go.
The one thing I don't love is this, they're using the brand new Ford automatic transmission. Now, on the one hand, there's probably not a great way to make that look super vintage. On the other hand,
it'd be nice.
They should make the effort.
They should.
You know?
Yeah. Because from the outside, the car, because it's dimensionally accurate to the original ones, I don't know if the size is the same, but
it is.
Is it the size exactly
the same? Exactly the same.
Okay, so then it looks perfect. And then you look in and you when you look in, you go, oh, okay. And I remember this from when I used to go to hot rod shows when there would be like a really nice hot rod of whatever kind, but if you looked inside and something leapt out as being too modern or too cheap,
they'd use the shifter or the seats out of a Tahoe, you know, or something. And
I understand, like, that's a cost-saving measure. That's a comfortable seat that you know is going to be safe.
Yeah.
But it just stood out the wrong way.
Yeah. They told me they're working on a different shifter mechanism for this gearbox. But so the cheapest is that convertible 65, 66, and then I think as you get to the later the GT500s and stuff, I think the price goes up, and the most you could do, I think, an automatic transmission GT500 supercharged in a two-tone paint scheme is like $325. Okay. That's about your range, and the black one that we were driving was $293. We're talking about huge amounts of money. But we're talking about a car that looks and mostly feels like an old muscle car, but it can literally be used in, as you demonstrated yesterday, the worst traffic jam imaginable for hours, and it's like, okay, fine.
I was really impressed with how usable it was and easy, because an old car might handle that traffic, but also could overheat, and there's carburetor issues. And the engine, it's a modern engine, but it delivered enough of old car sound and feel and the firing order and all that stuff that I didn't actually
you can still hear like the 8.8 inch rear end a bit. Yeah. It's a solid axle, so it doesn't feel like you're driving a brand new car.
No, it's stiffer than I was expecting. But on anything except for expansion joints here, you don't really notice. And then in the Canyon, it handled great.
Yeah, it's pretty good
for the car. Totally fine.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I would, as someone who likes the idea of a muscle car but not the reality, if I had the money, I'd be much more inclined to buy one of these than to buy either an original car or have my own built.
Yeah, I would love to own an old car again. I just looked at Bring a Trailer for an example. A green 67 Fastback this one's $70,000. And it has 90,000 miles on it. Like, I feel like you either kind of go with a certain amount of money and you don't try to make the car more than it is, keep it period correct. But I think when people get into trouble is you take this and then you want to turn it into like the full Resto Mod Optima Streetcar Invitational kind of capable vehicle. And that's going to cost a ton of money. And then you end up with something that feels a bit different from the original, but also costs a ton.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and you know what if I lived somewhere that had nice weather but also not a ton of traffic, I could literally daily the Revology car. You could do that.
Totally.
And if I wanted to go on a really long road trip, I would want to take the Revology car because I would trust that it would probably work properly. I don't have any long-term reliability, reports. And, full disclosure, by the way, I forgot to say it before we started this segment, but full disclosure, Revology stores their marketing cars at Westside. And so they do directly pay me money. Although they pay me for parking and not for my opinions. So you can, if you think that devalues what we have to say, well, I understand and I won't be mad, but that's the truth.
I don't make any money from that. So.
You make no money from it, so you can say whatever.
Yeah.
But I can say that of the cars that we've had 5 or 6 different Revology cars here in the last year, and we have only had one mechanical issue, and it wasn't even a mechanical issue. The car, for some reason, just did not recognize the keyless fob, which, like, okay. It then went to the dealer. It went to a Ford dealer for 2 days and came back.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, like I think part of the deal is most of the car can be serviced at a Ford dealer because it's a brand new crate Coyote motor from Ford Racing. You know, it's OBD2.
Yeah, if it uses their same keyless fob tech, so that's pretty cool.
It uses the fob doesn't look the same, but I think it's the same Mustang start button and all that shit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's expensive as hell, yeah. But what really does it for me to see where your money goes is the door slam. The door slam, the trunk slam, the hood slam are so tight.
Yeah.
No muscle
really
car.
surprising.
No muscle cars that tight.
There's not a lot of new cars that are that tight. I mean,
true.
It's really impressive. It's not G Wagen. It's headed that direction.
It's as close as you're going to get to a G Wagen. Yeah. Because they replace all the hinges and latches with modern shit. They replace all the weather stripping with modern stuff. They replace, the windshields used to be sealed with a rubber gasket. Now they use silicone like modern cars do.
Right.
The body comes from Dynacorn, but they fit it, by hand, each one, to make sure they're not just like installing the body. They're tailoring each little bit to make sure it's good.
Well, they weld all the pieces together, and then they also they have like smart welders that can measure the metallurgy and all the other things, so that the welds are always really thick and good.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we filmed Big Muscle, which was a show from 10 years ago, for those who haven't seen it, which is probably a lot of you. We were filming with Mike Meyer, who designed suspension systems for Mustangs. And he said the biggest problem with designing those suspension systems is that every Mustang was slightly different. The mounting holes were like a mil off. Well, because it's a Mustang, a quarter inch off, because of the production standards at the time. So this thing is
they
made
put it on a
with
jig and straighten it and weld it up.
Yeah, so this is all just really consistent, which allows, I think, the quality to be high. And it's the only thing they do. But yeah, it's expensive, but people will spend $300,000 on a Bronco or an old Porsche. It's all just, what do you like, and how much money are you willing to spend on that thing?
Yeah.
So,
I think it does deliver on the fantasy without making it like miserable.
Yeah. I was really impressed. And I was very pleasantly surprised it didn't feel like a new car, or sound like a new car, or any of that. I was really kind of shocked.
It's like an old car, just like less annoying.
Yeah.
Then when you start it up on the little screen inside the TAC, it says, "We don't build them like they used to."
Yeah,
I like that. That's
funny.
money.
Yeah.
Also, we had a go in the GR Corolla with the automatic transmission. We've driven a lot of GR Corollas, and this one is it's the 8-speed auto. It is a torque converter auto, and it's for the person who wants to maybe commute in their car in an urban environment, or share it with a partner who doesn't want to drive stick. I would say I still recommend the stick if your left leg is working. But am I mad that the auto exists? No, I'm not. I think if it makes more people buy GR products, then the auto is probably okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I agree. I mean, there's plenty of people, like, if you live here and you don't go in the canyons, but you like the car or whatever, or it's nice having an automatic transmission. And it's fine. It's not an amazing automatic.
It's okay. It's not terrible.
Clutch. It's not terrible.
Yeah.
It's not great.
It's got normal and sport powertrain settings, and then you've got your diff settings also. It's interesting how I would say in normal mode it lugs the engine a bit. It shifts early. It doesn't get it into boost, and with a 3-cylinder engine getting lugged, it's a little like vibraty. It's not
balanced.
It's not balanced the same way. And also there's something about, when you have a manual gearbox, your clutch pedal totally disconnects the engine from the powertrain. When you have a dual clutch gearbox, in between gear changes, it totally disconnects and reconnects the power to the drivetrain. With an automatic, a torque converter automatic, it never totally disconnects it. So you've got, when you're at a stoplight with your foot on the brake, you've got that creep that it wants to do, but it's holding the engine at a sort of vibraty in a vibraty way where there's just that little bit of load on it compared to the manual sitting there in neutral with no load on it. It doesn't have that vibration so much. So I think the manual feels smoother at lower speeds actually because it doesn't torque drag the engine all the time.
Okay. It feels like you're getting pushed from behind a little bit.
I noticed that when we were sitting in traffic coming down the mountain, I really noticed that compared to the stick. But the paddles were responsive. They do what they're told.
Yeah, they do. I'm not trying to disparage the car. Like what I noticed is that they made a thing in the press release about how they tuned the car in automatic sport mode. Like, so it'll do what you want it to. It's intuitive about when you're driving quick on the track or on the back road. So like, if you're hitting the brakes and it detects a certain amount of G load, like it should be downshifting for you. I found it to be pretty good at that. Not as good as Porsche. Not to always bring it up, but like their tuning is more precise on that thing. And there were some times where the transmission upshifted mid-corner, even though I was at static throttle. So I don't know if I needed more Gs, and if I'm driving harder, if it'll hold it. But you can just drive in manual mode. But because they talked about it so much, I was like, all right, well, let's see how this thing does. It did better at that job than I remember like the BMW ZF doing, but it just wasn't perfect.
Yeah. If I'm driving sporty, I'm using manual mode. I'm just not even going to...
For sure. I just wanted to test it because they talked about it. They also changed things in this car. It gets front and rear limited slip diffs, and that was not true in the last gen. So like, there's a couple of things, and they changed like some super nerdy suspension.
But the manual gets that also. That's not limited to the automatic. That's just this
the
model year.
Yeah, 2025 they changed suspension tuning a tiny bit. Yeah. They changed a pickup point, and they also gave everyone an LSD. So
did the other Corollas we've driven, have they had armrests?
It's a great question because when I got in the Mustang, I went, "Oh, this has better ergonomics because it has a right side armrest."
Yeah, this Corolla had no center armrest.
And wasn't this a premium plus? So this is the nicest package you can get.
I think so. It might be premium. I don't remember if it was premium or premium plus.
Premium plus comes with the carbon roof, unless
that says carbon roof,
right? Unless this was optioned with one. I don't. Let me see.
I don't know, but there was no center armrest, and it was kind of driving me fucking nuts.
Very annoying. I hate cars that have that. It was
not good.
I have friends that Armin, who I love, did an armrest delete in his E46. I was like, "What are you doing?"
That's not good. No. And it would be one thing. It's like if you're driving manual, and for some reason you need to free that room for the elbow. Like, fine, I guess. But like when I get into the car, my right elbow, as I'm usually gets on that armrest to like shuffle into the car, and without it there, I'm like flopping over to the passenger side. It's no good.
Let's see, Reddit GR Corolla.
I do not like that. Yeah, you got it.
This one has it. Lack of.
All right, so let's assume it's an option that this one doesn't have. If you buy this car, you absolutely want an armrest.
So 8 months ago, someone on Reddit said, for GRC owners, does this bother you that it doesn't have a center armrest? My car has always had one, and I lean on it. Are there third-party creations yet? So I guess it doesn't.
It doesn't?
It doesn't come with one.
That's so weird. I could have sworn.
People say you get used to it. I don't notice it anymore. I like it a lot sitting on long drives, both elbows on the thing, put your thumbs on the wheel. It matters a lot.
I genuinely don't remember if the other cars we've driven have had armrests.
You got to save weight, I guess.
Yeah, it's very important. Update. I tried to make a video. This was the same as with yesterday. The wind was so crazy. Since we were just talking about a transmission, I sort of tried to make a little video because I didn't want the whole day to be wasted. We're gonna review it. I was very flustered from the weather, and it might be trash. Like it might literally be throw in the garbage level trash. I hope it's not. I hope there's something in there that's usable, but like the odds aren't very good, honestly. It was a between what was happening in the world, the weather, my mood that morning, and all of that, it was not the right time to
It was a rough day. What was I going to say? Oh, so if you get a premium plus with this, it's like you're now like 46, 47 grand, especially with the automatic. It's $2,000 more. So for
you're awfully close to a BMW 240 at that point, aren't you?
You're also even with CTR.
Oh, so that's tough.
Which would you choose, GR Corolla or CTR?
I like how the Corolla drives a little better than I like how the CTR drives. At a certain point, like a very aggressive front-wheel drive car just doesn't do it for me anymore. If I wanted a front drive car, I'd probably rather have the Integra because it was such a nice thing to daily drive versus the Civic.
That is the better.
I would rather have the better CTR. Really. Yeah, I'd rather have that. But I like the steering better in the Corolla than in the Civic. I like the sharpness. I like that you can power on oversteer if you flick it hard enough. And I like the size of it. I like that it's little.
Yeah, and the Type S starts at 52.
Yeah,
so
that's expensive.
That's a jump.
That's
$5,000 more.
Yeah.
All right.
Sue, update on the Bentley. Some good news. The leak. It was leaking something. A very little bit, but it was more than zero. There's a big difference between zero and a little bit. A little bit to a lot, but zero to a little bit. Took it back to Charlie. He first said it's your power steering pump, which was very expensive to fix. And I was like, motherfucker. But then like a day later, he called. He was actually not your power steering pump. It was your brake booster, which is mounted above the power steering pump. So the brake booster was actually leaking onto the power steering pump, which made it look like the power steering pump was leaking.
Because the drops were very dark.
They were dark.
You know, brake fluids tend to be light, but also it can just grab shit.
It could, yeah. I mean, it ran down the engine, so by the time it got to the ground, so the brake booster had to be replaced. Fortunately, it was half the price of the power steering pump.
Whoa!
So
all right.
It wasn't cheap,
but it's a victory.
It wasn't cheap, but small victories. Yeah. And then I drove the Bentley home last night, and I was like, God damn it, I love this car. It's just so nice.
It's really awesome, dude.
Yeah.
It really is.
But the maintenance cycle is not small. Let's just say it's not
frequent.
Small. Well, we're going to keep working. Eventually, we'll have replaced everything.
That's right. But then the question is, did Bentley build it correctly the first time, or are these problems just intrinsic?
I think Jack Baruth wrote a great article a long time ago about the difference between reliable and dependable. And dependable is like a Civic, right? Or like or a fucking 4-cylinder Camry from 10 years ago. A car where you could pretty much treat it like garbage and it's still going to probably get you there. Change the oil every 25,000 miles, like whatever, just fuck it, it'll just keep going. Like, so that's dependable. Reliable is a very finely engineered thing that won't leave you stranded, but that does require expensive, specialized maintenance to keep going. And it's just engineered to a higher level and requires a higher level of care. And sometimes
like
more expensive.
Because it helps. It'll help my arguments at home with the BMW.
It benefits people who own old BMWs and Bentleys.
Yeah, but it's true of I think any. It's like specialty cars need specialty care.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even when the FK8 Civic came out, people were overheating them because there wasn't enough coolant. Like, this is a Honda, but if you drive it super hard on the track, they're like, oh, there's a flaw in the design. This needs to get fixed. Like, anything that is really highly strung or specialized in the case of the Bentley, it's probably going to need a lot more care.
Air-cooled Porsches. You drive an air-cooled Porsche,
right.
It's probably not going to leave you on the side of the road. But it might find a way to tell you something's wrong. It might start smoking. It might smell funny.
Yeah.
It might not, like warm up great. It probably won't grenade. It won't explode. It won't leave you stranded on the side of the road. But that smoke is telling you that you need an $18,000 top end rebuild.
Yeah.
That
is the funny thing of I remember when I was shopping for cars, a common phrase on Craigslist, I don't know if it's just for BMWs, but is like, never left me stranded. Which now, I mean, those of us who know, you go, that just means you have a lot of shit that broke, but it never stopped turning on.
Yeah.
So that's a win, but there's an asterisk.
Yeah.
However, like you said, some cars will just let you know that they're like puttering a little bit. They're missing a couple coil packs, but it still works okay.
I mean, and I'm also like insane. Like, there's not a lot of people who would, at the sight of 2 drops of oil on the ground, dime-sized drops, immediately take the car to the shop.
Right.
I mean, I would, and then immediately spend whatever it costs to fix that problem. That's just because I'm insane and I want this car. I don't care how old the car is. It needs to be perfect mechanically.
Right. That is a thing for you because I was going to say, is that an economic situation? But I'm sure there are people out there that have the same budget and they would just let it drip because it wouldn't bother them.
It wouldn't bother them it's how much does it bother you, right? Like, so the Lamborghini leaked oil the entire time I had it. I mean, the whole time it had an oil leak, and it was just, make sure.
Well, that car doesn't work right now. It doesn't seem to bother you at all.
You're right, it doesn't. Freedom. Me, Vinny, and the two guys at South Bay on Sunday had to ship a second pallet to Italy. Because although these guys, I sent my engine, my gearbox to Italy, they were like, so you send the engine and the gearbox. I sent it, and they're like, where is the rest of it? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I sent you pictures of it. And they were like, we need, like, all this other shit. We need, like, your entire fuel system, your entire oil system, your alternator, your starter, your flywheel, your clutch, your fucking this. And I was like, you guys, like, nobody mentioned this.
And they boxed it up.
They packed it up. Nobody said shit.
Wow.
So fucking Vinny was probably there for 10 hours. I was probably there for 4 hours. Categorizing and itemizing, separating, what goes with an engine and what goes with suspension, because we just collected all this shit from Donnie's.
Wow.
And we had to send a whole other pallet. It was 2 G's to send this thing to Italy with fucking everything in it that you would need to make my engine run over there.
Would those things have fit in the first pallet that went over?
No, but no, they wouldn't have fit in the first pallet, but it definitely would have been easier and less money to have them pick them both up together.
For sure. And to have the experts there pick the things instead of you guys doing it.
No, they weren't doing that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the experts are in Italy. I then have an international bonded shipping company that has, because to ship, there's like tariffs and stuff. So I had to like export my engine to Italy and like re-import it. So like there's like I have to pay taxes on this stuff.
But that just means that the company in Italy will pay the tariff.
Of course. That's how tariffs work.
Okay, so I thought the guys that came to pick up all the stuff the first time were the experts. They just box up heavy things.
They're shippers.
Got it.
Yeah. But I had sent photos to Italy of here's what we have.
We assume you were sending everything else and it was just out of frame.
Yeah,
we know what to do. You don't know what to do? I love that stuff.
And then they're like, they sent me the list of what I need, and like, I can't identify most of this shit.
Right.
Like, can I identify an alternator? Like, absolutely. Can I identify, like, what some little fucking obscure, thing means? Like, nah.
Right.
No idea.
Once the hoses are off, a lot of them look the same.
Yeah. Do I know what the rear main seal cover looks like? Nope, I do not.
You should just send them everything.
Well, we almost did. Between Vinny, Rotha, Alex, and myself, we were pretty much able to figure out what everything was in general. And if we erred, we erred on the side of caution by just sending it.
Yeah.
Just
send the car.
Well, they also said
send the car.
They also apparently the engine went over there with only 11 pistons and 11 rods. And
what?
Well, one was separate from the engine. I fortunately had it. They said, listen, they go, we need you to send the 12th piston and rod. And they go, because it's a balanced set. And so if we don't have that, you have to buy 12 new ones. I was like, okay, cool. Good. That's good.
Why was that one out of the car? It just hadn't been installed yet?
I don't know why it was out of the car. I don't know. It just wasn't in it.
It would have sounded interesting. They fired up. I mean, they would notice, of course, but if it was running on 11.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Wow, bro.
Yeah, it's old cars. It's
right.
Just
hence Revology.
Right?
I'm not trying to do a commercial for
no,
them.
but like, here's why you don't want to do a restoration yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it's annoying. It's very annoying.
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, even when Donnie was doing it all there, still annoying.
You had a lot of phone calls about, we need these bolts, but I can get them next month. And that's a specialty car, of course.
Tens of thousands of dollars in fucking bolts.
Yeah.
It's insane.
But you got the best Italian bolts. That is the benefit.
They are the best Italian bolts.
Look, if you're into Mustangs, good, because the bolts are here, and they're made here, and it's a lot easier to find them.
Donnie may not be on the level, but those are legitimate Lamborghini parts. I've seen the packaging.
Yeah, no, I've seen them too.
He's not manufacturing fake parts for the cars. business.
Yeah, he doesn't have time to print those labels and make up, write Italian. Yeah, those are
No, he
legit.
can barely use Instagram. It's not. All right, let's get to the Patreon. I don't have anything else to talk about today, but I hear that you do.
The people have a lot
to say. Did you guys have a little extra time to think and nothing to do on Wednesday? Because boy, did I.
I think everyone voted by mail and then spent
smoking
all
joints.
of Wednesday just writing questions. And a lot of variety in here. So...
yeah, okay. Well, we just get to them. Of course, if you want to, we're not going to get through all of these because Zach has a hard out. That's also the name of the first porn film I was in. Hard out. But
we will save them.
We have another
second show.
Yeah, we have another show.
We started late, which is why I have to leave. So not trying to
silly West Side collector car storage team meetings. Bullshit.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. Bad Gardener wants to see us talk to an expert on automotive cyber security. Ew, he used the word cyber.
But it fits in this.
Yeah. What's the realistic danger of connected vehicles? Are we going to wake up one day to all of one brand's vehicles bricked or accelerating off at full speed? There was that... there was a movie recently where it was like a sort of a horror movie where... all the Teslas became sort of sentient, basically, and were just causing huge pileups crashing into each other.
That's funny. I'll tell you why off air. I think Fast 8, wasn't that the plot point also? Where
they took control of connected cars?
I think it was, yeah. I think they sent all the cars crashing into people.
Yeah.
Super hacker.
Yeah. I don't think it's realistically possible, given exact current hardware, to remotely control a vehicle the way that you probably think.
Well, this was an older story. 5-6 years ago, some white hat hackers broke into a Jeep and they demonstrated to Jeep, hey, you have a hole in your security. And they did.
And they drove it?
Yeah, they
remotely?
did it pretty quickly. Yes. They were in the car, but they did it pretty quickly. And then there was a recall, and then they updated a thing and blah, blah, blah.
I think as Phil Koopman says, you don't need to have malfeasance for bad software to fuck up a vehicle pretty bad. It doesn't need to be it can just be shitty software, which we see you're much more likely to be negatively affected in your life by garbage software than you are by hacked software. It can just be shitty and cause the vehicle to behave in all sorts of ways. It doesn't need to be hacked.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't know. If you have, it would be an interesting conversation and 6 people would listen to the show. Unfortunately, I think that's
maybe. We can add it to 2025, with our lane painting interviews and stuff, which are interesting to us and important. Yeah. This is a topic that could be important, probably not for 20 years when all the cars are connected.
Dre in Houston says, last show regarding the turbo non-S hybrid, we have some friends who own a cleaning business, and they bought one for chicken tax purposes. The CPA instructed them on a certain spend, and they chose that. Don't know how big of a niche it is, though. I'm not sure that the Cayenne Turbo Hybrid would meet chicken tax gross vehicle weight numbers, and the regular Cayenne Hybrid non-turbo won't. But if so, yeah, you can get your chicken tax going with a Cayenne Turbo Hybrid. That would be a pretty egregious way to collect that tax. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's the gross weight. At a quick glance, is 7,088 pounds.
For the turbo?
For the turbo.
What about Cayenne regular hybrid? I doubt the Delta is that much different.
Cayenne regular hybrid.
Gross vehicle weight, survey says?
It just says 6,900 to 71.
Well, that counts, over 6. So you can get the regular hybrid and get the same tax deductions. There you go. David Wilson says, thoughts on the 992.2 Carrera T. Zach is going to drive it when?
Next week.
Yep. In Atlanta.
Outside
of Atlanta? In Atlanta?
In Atlanta. So I think their usual Atlanta route.
North Georgia mountains, very good. Yeah. Blood Mountain, get at it.
Driving that and another car that they don't want us to tell people about.
Oh,
yet.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
What color? What color is Marco's Boxster?
Guards red.
Guards red.
Oh, his Boxster, his 911. His Boxster's Guards red. His 911 is Carmine red.
Okay.
My brake calipers are carmine red.
Carmine red's really good. But guard red also.
I like
Porsche's
guards red a lot more on modern cars than I liked it on air-cooled cars. I think whatever the paint, the pigment isn't exactly the same.
Yeah.
Oh no, cheese strudel. My dad threw up all over the interior of my GTI. The crayon smell is gone and it's now forever unclean. What's the most disgusting thing you've done in someone's car, or the most disgusting thing someone's done in your car that you know of? That's a funny one. I personally have never done anything that I consider to be that disgusting in someone's car. Personally, I have smoked blunts in people's car, obviously with their participation. I've smoked cigarettes in cars. A lot of people would consider that pretty gross. I've smoked cigars. Smoking in general. I've never vomited in anyone's car or shat or pissed. Have you?
No.
Have you fucked in someone's car that wasn't yours?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty
Is that
gross.
disgusting? All right.
It's a medium level. If it's not your car, I think boning in someone else's car is kind of gross.
Oh, okay.
Kind of. I'm not like.
What about just outside their Focus RS?
Really? Just out. When did that happen?
That's not the gross story.
When and where would that have occurred?
It is a mystery you will solve later when you're taking a shower and you'll go, oh.
That's really...
Anyway.
How interesting.
I think the grossest thing I did, I was at a prank war in college with this girl that I should have just gone out with, and she wrote on my windshield in whipped cream, but I didn't know it. It was like the car was parked in the back, and it was warm, and the whipped cream melted and ran down into my cabin vent intake area, and my Jetta smelled like mold.
That's gross.
For
Forever?
6 months, pretty much. That was pretty gross. Yeah.
Oh, well, the most disgusting thing someone has done in my car, there's two. One was when I collected the independent rear suspension for my Fox body Mustang using my brand new Honda Odyssey minivan, and it leaked differential fluid in the carpet. And I had to spend an insane amount of money to have the entire interior stripped and remade because the smell was...
Diff fluid is... And we've talked about this to like techs and friends that work in like mechanic industry, and they go, oh yeah, nothing smells as bad as
it is
fluid.
The most toxic fucking shit that you can imagine. And it took literally pulling every piece of interior out of the van, having the bare metal scrubbed and power washed, and having new interior carpeting put back in.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And my friend Eric Becker, shout out to him, we went to we were in South Carolina, and we had some drinks. Him a lot more than me, and I was driving. Or my other friend might have been driving back from the bar in Lexus RX 300 #1, the 98 Lexus RX 300 when it was on retirement in South Carolina. That was the JRG one, and Eric threw up out the open window at highway speeds.
Oh yeah,
but not totally out the open window.
Right.
And the spray was extraordinary.
Yeah.
And it was all over the outside. It was all over the inside. It was all over the goddamn place. And I did not want Viv to find out about this. So we took Eric home and then went back out. And this is in South Carolina. Went back out at like 2 o'clock in the morning to find somewhere to clean the car down fucking there. And I went to like a self car wash place, and I was there for hours.
How'd you clean the inside?
Fucking I bought like $35 of like Armor All wipes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
I was there from like 2:30 in the morning until probably 7.
Oh my God.
Cleaning the
It's a good
car.
thing he didn't have like a chunky dinner or something
It was
like that.
fucked up.
That's real bad.
Yeah, and he felt terrible about it, obviously. You know, what are you going to do?
Every now and then you see a car going down the highway and you see the streak and you know that someone in there is having a bad night. Yeah.
It's gross. K Cars, considering a 981 or 982 Cayman as a weekend car. What are the main differences in driving experiences between these cars? I mean, the big difference, as you point out, 981, they're all flat sixes. The 718 cars, the Boxster and the S are 4 cylinders. The GTS is the 6-cylinder. They sound different. They have different power bands. The turbo makes power a little lower. It's got that rumble, almost like a Subaru. The other car is a more slick and high-pitched. How do they drive? It's not that much of a difference to drive the two, other than that power band. The steering and stuff and the interior and all that are basically the same, slightly updated. I prefer the 6-cylinder car, but there's people that really like that turbo, the 4-cylinder with the S. I think it's a nice package. John Spartan 442, if you could durability test any vehicle, Whistlin Diesel-style, what would you choose and how would you test?
I would really like to test a Lexus truck against Bronco Badlands or something like that, and design the test so obviously there's some events where the Badlands would excel, but there's other events where the Lexus, but just to see. Which of these, we got a turbo EcoBoost over here, which one kind of builds more, and I don't know what it would consist of. A lot of things that would be increasingly more abusive. Yeah. And eventually, you're driving off of a 3-foot rock wall or whatever. And just, I don't know. I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. I'd like to, It's so weird because, I don't have, the desire to, break things the way that other people do, maybe.
Or you do, Thaddeus, this is Thaddeus' idea, so credit. And I remember he pitched this to us in 2011, and we were like, who do you think would let us do this? His pitch was, can we get a truck and jump it increasingly longer distances until it breaks as a video? And we're like,
I don't want to physically be in the truck, right. But I would check that out.
That's a good one. He thought Ford might give us an F-150 for that.
Good thought, that.
Fuck no.
Yeah, that's not. Fuck. I mean, obviously, I would love to demonstrate how if you were inside of a Cybertruck and someone shot at you, you would die. I mean, I'd like to show that.
There's a lot of videos on the internet of people shooting their Cybertruck door.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There's that, obviously.
And they prove it depends on the round. So.
Yeah, but also windows.
Also windows.
Very
true. The windows are not bulletproof, and it's like video games, like headshots.
Yeah, I'd like to do. They did. It probably wouldn't be a Whistlin Diesel size, but back in the day, magazines would do 24-hour average speed tests at Daytona.
Yeah.
Where they'd run a Saab 900 turbo for 24 hours at 150 miles an hour.
Andrew Frankel did that and set a record that I think it was Bentley or someone, the brand was so proud of this record for years.
Yeah.
And
I would like to do that.
That would be very cool.
I think that would be kind of fun for at least 10 minutes.
Yeah, once you're at the 20-hour mark, I mean, you're trading off, but just leaned over at Nardo Ring, just going, for that long.
Yeah, after a while it gets old. Joe says, should other CEOs take Jim Farley's route and daily drive a Chinese car to make them more urgent to the threat of a wave of good, affordable options? Well, if you're a car company CEO and you're not driving competitive product, Chinese or otherwise, you are an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to know what other people are doing.
I mean, it's common. The industry will buy, the industry would buy cars and disassemble them to look at their competitors. And now there are companies that do that for the OEM.
Yeah.
It's like outsourcing, and all they do is get a new car, take it completely apart, and so that engineers can look at how car company A did.
I know of a couple of car engineers that were able to do a loan exchange with other car makers specifically for that purpose.
That's funny.
Yeah, they're and these are very expensive cars, and they would just the one chassis engineer and the guy from McLaren and the guy from Lambo, they'll just swap cars for a week, and it's fair because they each get to drive the other one. So.
Right.
So yeah, they do it. Yeah, but I mean it's the most Detroit thing ever to not pay attention to how they're building cars elsewhere in the world.
I mean,
and so
any business, if you're not looking at your competition, that's a mistake.
Yeah. Michael Cosgrove, the new GT3 means a moderately optioned configuration will be $250K plus without ADM. Given that budget, what single weekend fun car alternatives would you consider? Oh, so many. $250?
Are we going with new cars only or just any cars?
Oh, we don't have to go with just new cars. I mean, $250 gets you so much car.
Lot.
$250 gets you a crazy amount of car. You could get into a good Diablo for $250. You could get into a Ferrari 430 with a manual, real.
Yes.
You could get into a very, very good example of a 599 and have it converted to manual. Mm-hmm. That would be amazing.
You could get a 550 manual of great condition.
You get an MC20 Cielo with like 8 miles on it, secondhand for $250.
Something newer, true.
Yeah.
Or a lightly used McLaren. You get like a McLaren 570 or 650 for that.
Yeah, I mean, you could get I bet you can get a 720 for $250. I bet $250 gets you a pretty good 720S.
Yeah.
And that is better than a GT3.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
You could get into any number of wonderful classic air-cooled cars that would be awesome. I mean, $250 gets you a 993 turbo, which is rad. It'll get you a beautiful air-cooled car.
How much are 2.7 RSs? Like a driven one?
They're
$1 million.
I mean, a fairly crappy Carrera RS, but like running driver, but like pretty crappy is probably $500. Those are really expensive.
Maybe get a crashed Singer.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could probably replicate a 2.7 RS pretty closely for that kind of money.
Yeah.
You could get. I mean, imagine you get a fucking really the greatest 355 GTS Ferrari and 10 years of servicing it.
Yeah.
For that kind of money, which is I think that's for $250. A 355 GTS, low miles, decent color with a stick, $150,000, and then $100K to keep it running. That's
or
the move.
You could get a Spider RS, or we can get a Spider, not a Spider RS. You can get your Spider with the engine, and have extra money left over, or a Cayman equivalent.
Yep. I would rather have my car and 10 years of service and running costs for the price of a GT3.
Yeah, I'd rather get a Cayman 4.0 and have Emotion Engineering do all the suspension. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Ivan Capote, have you noticed that some brands have become more reliable? It used to be that a BMW would cost you a fortune to maintain, but they've improved heavily. Do you think this is the case with any other brand? I think most cars have become much more reliable. I mean, the assumption is with any new car that it should work. That wasn't always the case.
And I think, because this was, referencing a Consumer Reports thing, a lot of those are based on the new car ownership experience. So not once they go beyond 5-year warranty. Mm-hmm. And like you said, for the most part, most cars can handle whatever you're going to do to them for the first years within the warranty. You know, I mean, there's an era for us where you had to turn off the AC going up a hill. Yeah. Because it would crap out, even in a fairly new car.
They have signs all over California when you go up over hills that say "Turn off AC." Sleep great.
That's not a problem anymore.
That's not a thing.
A lot of things have gotten better.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting to watch the shift of, like, as Toyota has to get pushed into turbocharged engines, and they've had some problems with the new Tundra. Like, it seems like there's a upset in the matrix to, what we saw as the most reliable cars all the time. Just as engines get more complicated. Yeah, well, companies like Toyota that for a long time relied on their sort of simplicity, they were always sort of a step or two behind in the tech. True. But that allowed them to have real robust powertrains. And now when they come out with a new powertrain, it seems like it's a little problematic. Right. But I think all cars in general are more reliable now than they were in the past, are more efficient and more powerful. And even with computers, I think and there can be like crazy software problems, but like I think a lot of things that people think of as like breaking down, that doesn't really happen anymore so much. Mm-hmm. Used to, like, my dad would tell me that you used to, like, on hot days,
commuting in and out of New York City. You used to see like cars on the fucking side of the road broken down like all the time. Like you really don't see that kind of stuff anymore.
We don't see it anymore with new cars, right?
Yeah.
Very infrequently.
Yeah.
And also when we drive by them, we don't know what the problem is. Like I've definitely seen
but they're
new
not like
X7 pull
smoking.
over. No. Yeah, it could be it's probably a flat tire more likely. Yeah.
Timbo says, now that green mandates are not a priority under Trump and fossil fuel is, will this help Detroit be profitable again as they lost billions on EV strategy? I think it's very funny that like the guy who needs EV mandates more than anything in the world gave Trump more money than any person has ever given a political candidate in history.
Right. I mean, he rants about subsidies and he gets a lot of them. But I think car companies, I speculate that car companies have plans beyond 4 years because to develop a new technology, I mean, that's a big ship. They build a ship and then send it out to sea and get it going or train, whatever. Like to divert that, I don't know if they could pivot that quickly. So it depends.
I think that Porsche has already begun to walk back some of its EV-only strategy, saying things like, oh, by the way, like our EV platforms could also accept internal combustion powertrains. There may be a gasoline Macan around the corner. There may be a gasoline Cayman and Boxster in store. And that's why I kind of like sort of stay away from the like, this is going to be the last thing ever, because like they can turn that ship. It's just, it takes a long time. It takes years to turn that ship.
And with the Porsche thing, I think a lot of car companies have been complaining to the EU about the infrastructure and charging and the take rate on EVs and the complexity and difficulty. And they're going, mandating this is not going to benefit the consumer that much. So we should probably walk this back a little bit. So I feel like car companies have to pay attention to more than just what the U.S. president wants to do because some of these things take so long to change and direct.
Yeah. Matt and Zach's excellent adventure. What frustrates or surprises you both about car shopping with normal people? I helped my girlfriend decide between an Accord hybrid, Camry hybrid, and a GTI, and it was eye-opening as someone who mostly focuses on performance. I've helped Hannah buy her last. She bought, I guess it would have been 2 cars. She had one car when we met. She then got the Volvo and then the Ford. And with the Volvo, I went to the dealer with her and I refused to like say anything. Like she actually got annoyed by it because I was like, I don't want to influence you away from having the car that you want. Whatever you think is important. And she was like, I actually wanted you to help and tell me things, and you didn't. But like, I don't go car shopping with regular people anymore for this reason because, like, their priorities are so not what mine are. Like, if my priorities mattered, we'd have a Hyundai Ioniq 5N, but like they don't matter, so we don't have that. Like. Do people try to ask you? I mean, they ask me for advice, like my uncles and aunts and cousins and whatever, and I give them the best advice I can. And if they wanted me to go shopping with them, I would. But no one's ever really asked.
I've only gone car shopping with Sarah, and I helped do the research on what we needed, and I presented the options. But then we went to the different dealerships to look at Subaru, Honda CR-V, and Toyota RAV4. And it was very much like, this is her money. She should get the one she likes more because I don't want to push her into something and have her go, none of us want to be in the position where someone feels like they second guess their purchase based on our influence. I think the surprising thing with any time I've given anyone advice is the number of people, and we talked about this, so we'll hit it quick, is they know what they want. They want us to confirm what they want. And when we present alternative information or opinion, they will almost always go to the car that they wanted anyway, regardless of what you could say that car is known for birthing dragons and lighting on fire, but these other options that are just as fast and from competing companies will develop great cars that last forever. And they go, yeah, but I'm still thinking about the dragon car.
Yeah.
It's just, so that's always the most surprising thing.
That doesn't surprise me, but yeah, they ask advice but don't really want it. They just want confirmation that they're not making the wrong choice.
Which I guess is actually how humans operate.
Yeah.
So
Tell me I'm not a moron.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not a moron.
Yeah.
So, because usually the questions they ask are like, to me, are not rational. Which car purchases don't have to be rational, mind you. But you're asking for a rational piece of advice for an irrational purchase.
It's a very emotional purchase, for sure. Yeah.
Should I get a BMW M5 or a 911 GT3? There's a rational answer. There's a solution I can write out for you to help decide. But that doesn't matter. That's not what they want. And it's like, I don't fucking know. I can't tell you what your emotion wants you to be driving. Riley 3D prints a lot. Is 3D printing more, less, or exactly as prevalent as you'd expect by now? Modern 3D printers that work great out of the box can be bought for a few $100s, and you'd think they should be more useful by now. Can a modern 3D printer that for a few $100s print something that can be used as like a structural part, or is it printing with like plastic-like substances?
Well, I think for $300 you're getting plastic.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Filament or something like that. So structural. Which structure? I don't know. I'm really fascinated by the 3D printing world and how accessible it is, but I haven't taken the plunge because I still think of it as being beyond my reach, which is probably just me not willing to like look into it and learn. Because you can get files from websites and there's free this and that, and I think it'd be very cool to be able to make like, if you need a bracket for something, you could kind of mess with that. But I think, Riley, people that are drawn to that are probably really into making things. And I think it's just a niche thing.
Yeah.
Most people want to be able to just order a part that fits where it fits and they can go on with their life. I think that's more likely. Not everyone wants to fiddle.
Well, and a 3D printer does require an operator of some kind.
Yeah.
So it's a great tool if you know how to use it. And so I do know that a lot of like the tuning companies and racing shops and aftermarket people do a lot of prototyping with 3D printing to make sure something fits, and then they go send it off and have it done in metal or whatever,
I think the professional industries use it a ton.
Yeah.
Because you can, like you said, you can print a mold or a prototype part, smooth it, test the fitment, and go, oh, this does work. Now we make it in metal, which costs a lot more money, and now this is our new bracket, shifter, whatever the fuck.
Yeah. I think so. To answer the question, I think it's about as prevalent as I would have thought. There's parts I hear about, for instance, the shock tower, the upper shock tower on the Lexus LC is done with 3D printing. Mm-hmm. This Zinger car is doing a lot of 3D printing
Pretty
stuff.
Much entirely, yeah.
Yeah, I think Koenigsegg and Pagani are doing some levels of 3D printing with stuff.
BBI did an Inconel exhaust with it because you can create shapes with 3D printing that you would not be able to very reliably and consistently like bend metal into to fit a certain
or mill.
thing.
Yeah. It's cool stuff.
We can keep going for a little bit.
All right, I do not have. I'm by the name of Jeff. I'm sorry, I do not have an answer for your question. I'm sorry. Christian says, "Will the electric G Wagen depreciate like other EVs?" Methinks yes.
Yes.
Yeah, methinks yes. I don't. The permanence that a G Wagen has regarding its body structure and styling and all that, I believe is negated by the electric powertrain or mitigated anyway.
That is an interesting question because I'd say is it the most iconic car that's been turned into an EV? Like a Taycan is a new
interesting.
idea.
Yeah.
So this is something that everyone has loved and bought second, third, fourth, fifth, 15th owner. So maybe this might be the litmus test.
Yeah.
For EV
I think
nostalgia.
that's pretty right. I mean, you could have the other one being, I guess, the new Volkswagen ID Buzz, but that is an all new vehicle. It's not a So probably, yeah. You'll get to have especially if they come out with a gasoline AMG one, you'll have a direct back-to-back comparison.
Right, yeah, which one depreciates more quickly.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the electric one will. There's no way it wouldn't. Yeah, we're driving in a couple weeks. After I get back from Arizona, we're driving it. Dave Cucci, do you enjoy trying to figure out what cars the lights from RVs and commercial trucks are from? Like the tail lights, like, oh, that's from a Taurus or something. I used to do stuff like that, and then I kind of stopped caring.
Yeah.
Tim A says, are brown Porsches underrated, overrated, or properly rated? I like a brown Porsche.
I think certain browns look good when they're very clean in the right light, but as soon as that color gets dirty, flat brown is not a color I enjoy seeing on a car.
Yeah. For me, like my color blindness, green, brown, it sort of blends into one color, and it's hard for me to tell if something is a dark green or a brown at first glance sometimes. So I don't care that much about browns, although there's like a dusty gold sort of that's like somewhere between brown and gold that I do like a lot. But I'm in general pro brown. Okay. Brandon Duster says you can get the Cayenne turbo seats in a lower trim. Oh, it is a factory option. Okay, got it. That was not an option when my dad got his car, but this is the new generation of car. I don't have an answer to Darian's question. It's a good compliment. Matt, Zach, and Johnny are my favorite automotive journalists. How do you guys do such a good job of presenting unattainable vehicles in a down-to-earth and digestible manner? I don't know, that's funny because I get a lot of fucking notes from comments, people telling me how out of touch I am because I drive expensive cars a lot. But I suppose we try to do our best. I mean, I don't know.
I feel like that's what the auto journalism game has been since the beginning, is journalists get to test stuff that most of the readers couldn't afford. And your job is to explain why that's exciting to read about instead, it's not like telling you about someone's 10-bedroom house that you can't afford. Somehow, cars are more emotional and people are more excited to learn about that, I think. I don't know.
Last one, and then wait, is there a whole other page or is this the last two in the thing? There's a whole other page. There's a lot.
Several pages.
All right, last one, and then we will call this game and we'll be back on Sunday. NK says, I believe the Lamborghini Aventador is one of the most influential cars in the last decade. You don't have to be a car guy to know what an Aventador is. Do you think it will reach a halo car level like the Miura or F40 did in the future? No. And in fact, I don't think the Aventador is that influential. I think the design is excellent, and I think the fact that if you parked a 2011 or 2012 Aventador on the street right now, it has not aged very much. I think it still looks very contemporary and modern. But, the Miura was the first mid-engine 12-cylinder car from that company or ever. The F40 was the first of the semi-modern era, very extreme supercar. The last car built while Enzo was alive, the last car Enzo personally oversaw, and the culmination of the Dino 308, 328 line that was going on for 15 years. And
a departure in design styling that was much more extreme.
Yeah.
So it jumps off all the pages more than the previous iterations. Right?
Yeah. No, Aventadors hold their value very well. I mean, it's because they look pretty much the same for 10 years, and you can buy an older one and it still seems like a pretty new car. And I think it is. We're talking about a car that even at the cheapest end is $350,000. So it's not like it's not a halo car now. But in terms of representation for history, I think it is not as significant as the Miura or the F40.
Yeah, I think you had to move forward. Like the McLaren F1 was significant, and that was kind of a new benchmark.
Yeah,
from Miura. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, and even during the Aventador era, McLaren had halo cars above that. They had the Centenario, they had the Veneno, they had these other cars where they made a very small number of very extreme modification. The fucking Countach, modern Countach, which someone took a fucking bath on one on Bring a Trailer recently.
Really?
Yeah.
And how many of those did they make?
I want to say it was like
a
couple hundred, 200 maybe. So neat car, very, very, very beautiful design. Really, 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 really nice design. But it's not an F40 for me. It's not a Miura for me, but good car.
Mm-hmm.
You should strive to own one. Last, before we get out of here, registration is now open for the next Road and Track event, which is in Texas. You can go to experiences.roadandtrack.com. It is April 7th through 10th. Texas Hill Country starts in Austin and includes track time at COTA, at Certificate of the Americas, yes, at Circuit of the Americas. Arizona sold out. That's it. Texas, beyond city limits. Beautiful Texas roads, hill country, Austin, Fredericksburg, barbecue, wine tasting, and of course, Circuit of the Americas. I will be there. I will be leading the drive. I will be giving ride-alongs on the track, and it's in Texas, so I'm hoping I can get a McLaren for that one. We're going to be doing a bunch of really good driving. So you can head over to experiences.roadandtrack.com. The itinerary is there. You can see where the track is, where the roads are, where the hotels and restaurants are, get a whole vibe for it. And if you want to do it, but you don't live anywhere near Texas and you don't want to deal with getting your car there, Westside Collector Car Storage can ship your car to and from this event. So we can do it totally hands off. We just shipped 11 cars to Arizona for next week's event, and we're shipping 11 cars back.
Whoa.
Which is awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, no problems. All the cars got there early, but no worries at all. And we're going to have a nice drive come Tuesday starting in Arizona. So experiences.roadandtrack.com. Come drive with me, Texas Hill Country, April 7th to 10th of 2025. And you can also see the remainder of the 2025 Road and Track events schedule there as well. If you can't make that one, come to the next one. For the live people, the patrons, we'll be back on Sunday afternoon. I'm going away, like I said, so we got to get a little bit ahead, and we'll see you then.